Get you set up for storylines. Miami and Florida, the big matchup. There's a new Manny in charge. Manny Diaz takes over as Miami's head coach after 3 seasons as the defensive coordinator. Expectations high for Dan Mullen in year 2 at Florida. He's looking to become the first Gators coach since Urban Meyer with back-to-back 10-win seasons. And Saturday night's quarterback battle features Jarren Williams, who's making his first career start, while Felipe Franks is making his 22nd career start. Difference at the quarterbacks. Maria, Des, and David have much more from Walt Disney Resorts.
The happiest place on earth, Walt Disney World, and we are coming to you from the Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, which is 1 stop away on the monorail system to Magic Kingdom. Maria Taylor, David Pollock, and Desmond Howard. Right? I do know because I'm staying right there, and I've already been to Magic Kingdom, and I've watched the fireworks the last 2 nights. Guys, there's a reason why we're here. 1, obviously, College Game Day will be coming to you live from Magic Kingdom, but 2, the Miami-Florida game kicks off the 150th season of college football a week early, and it's going to be a great game, a battle for the state. Let's go with the one big thing that you'll be watching, David, in the matchup Saturday.
I'll be watching Miami's offense. Yeah. And when you've watched them over the years, the last couple of years, they've wasted championship defenses. They've had great players on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, it's been a struggle. Well, now you're going against Florida, who's got a great defense, and you've got 2 freshman tackles, 1 true freshman coming in there with a new quarterback who's never started a game in his life. So offensively, can the Gators get some kind of identity and momentum and mojo? Because the turnover chain created that, and the defense has created that for large spurts the last couple of years, but the offense has done next to nothing.
Yeah, speaking of the turnover change, they're going to have a new turnover chain. I want to see the 2019 edition.
Okay.
I'll be looking for that. Obviously, Jarren Williams, the quarterback, he's going to be the starter. I'm really curious to see what they do with Tate Martell. He was a kid who transferred from Ohio State to Miami with the idea of becoming the starter at Miami. Didn't win the job. Now, there are rumors about this kid playing wide receiver. I'm very curious to see how Dan Enos uses Tate Martell because he has a pretty unique skill set.
Yeah.
He's really good with the ball in his hands. And so I want to see tomorrow night's game, how they're going to use Tate Martell in Miami's offense.
And it's interesting because Jarren Williams, there was a time when he was thinking about entering into the transfer portal, and now he is the starter, and he's only thrown 3 passes in his career at Miami.
Everywhere?
Yeah.
Hey, you don't
have to
have
transfer.
That's right. And actually earn a job.
Stick
even when
it
somebody
through.
else transfers
Fight it out. That's right. Hey.
One guy you didn't really mention, or let's talk about him, Felipe Franks. Great ascension towards the end of the season. No interceptions, 12 touchdowns that he was responsible for, and those final 8 games. So what changed for him, and how can he continue to move in the right direction?
You know, I think what changed for him is anytime you get a new head coach and you start to learn a new system, you have to get used to the terminology, then you have to get used to the expectations. I think as the season grew older, Felipe Franks started to get used to what they were expecting from him at the quarterback position, and he started to run the ball more too. Now, coming to year 2, it seems like Dan Mullen's looking for this guy to become more of a leader. He said not just by his plays, but by his presence too. So I think his leadership is going to be key if they're going to beat the Canes tomorrow night.
And I think people looked at Felipe Franks and went, he was okay. He wasn't great, but he was great compared to Florida standards, okay? This is the best quarterback in the last 10 years for Florida. I mean, over 27 touchdowns, less than 7 interceptions. That's, by the way, that's in company with Tua and Trevor Lawrence and Jake Fromm. So he took care of the ball. He ran more. It proved Dan Mullen knows what he's doing.
No doubt.
It wasn't just a fluke what he did at Florida and then Mississippi State. So this offense needs to take that next step. Offensive line almost completely rebuilding.
Exactly.
Everything else is in place. So it'll be interesting to watch year 2 with Dan Mullen.
4 brand new starters on the offensive line for Florida. All right, this is not the end of hearing from us here at Disney World. We're back at Walt Disney World Resort in Florida, where beginning August 29th at Disney's Hollywood Studios, you can live your very own Star Wars adventure at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. You can build a custom lightsaber, drop by the cantina for a local beverage, and even pilot the Millennium Falcon, which I think we're going to try to do a little bit later too, guys.
Maria, thank you. I'll get a lightsaber in all day with these 2 guys. College football, gentlemen, is all about first impressions. We get a good look at both Miami and Florida in this one. McElroy, I'll start with you. What are you looking for out of Miami in game 1?
I just want to see a philosophy offensively that looks as though they're playing in 2019. Because if you look at what they did the last couple of years, and with all due to Mark Richt and his offensive staff, but they look stagnant. They didn't have a lot of creativity offensively. And now you have a new redshirt freshman quarterback in Jarren Williams, and he is a guy that's a dual-threat player. He can create on his own, use his legs. Look, a couple years ago when Brad Kaya was there, they had a pro-style system with a few RPOs. I want to see them transition almost exclusively to spread with RPO-oriented offense. So I think that will be a huge step in the right direction for an offense that felt outdated the last couple years.
Yeah, you couldn't tell if it's outdated or the quarterback play wasn't very good because the quarterback play was not very good. And this offensive line is going to be a question mark. If this young quarterback has a chance to stand in the pocket, look downfield, he has a strong enough arm to make plays downfield. But, Greg, as you know, if you want to go downfield, that's a longer drop. That's longer in the pocket, standing there holding the ball. And, hey, you say he could move? Well, he might have to move because there's some holes on that offensive line. They haven't played well in the past few years either. So, offensively, when you look at Miami, there's a lot of question marks. Their defense has been talented. Their defense creates turnovers, and that's the way they've been able to win football games as their offense has struggled.
Yeah, you know, people forget about Miami last year, start the season 5-0, everything's great, and then all of a sudden the wheels started to fall off a little bit. And when the turnover changed, the most notable thing about your program, that means you've got a really good defense and a suspect offense. We'll see if that turns around this year. Let's switch gears now to Florida. Comes in ranked 8th in the preseason AP. That's their highest ranking since 2010. Galloway, give me a bullet point you're going to be watching with the Gators.
Well, it's all Felipe Franks. He took a huge step forward in his first season under Dan Mullen. Now can they do it again? P. Ryan is back in the backfield. When they've been able to run the ball, this Florida team's very good. Can Felipe Franks get to a point where he can carry this offensive team if he needs to do it? Now, no coach goes into a game and says, hey, we would like for our quarterback to have to carry us on his back, but you get in situations, especially when you play very good football teams in the SEC, where your quarterback has to make plays on third downs down the field. If Felipe Franks can become that guy, then we might be talking about Florida as the team that can beat Georgia in the SEC East.
Yeah, and he does have to do it himself. I mean, Felipe Franks has really good skill positions on the outside at wide receiver. I really like the contingent of running backs they have. I am a little concerned about replacing 4 of their 5 offensive linemen from a year ago, but I think the offense can be just fine. I just trust Dan Mullen. The reason why Florida won 10 games last year was because of their defense. I mean, their defense was remarkable, so can they replace some playmakers on the other side? And like you said, I mean, Felipe Franks, one thing that he didn't do a great job of last year was handling criticism. If, in fact, he comes out against Miami and the game is rough early and his offensive line, that new group of offensive linemen, if they struggle, he gets hit a couple times, will he be able to bounce back from adversity? Because there were times last year where he showcased a little immaturity. Now, he was young. He was only a sophomore, so you'd think that would be part of the maturation process. But that's what we need to see from him, is that not let the lows be too low and not let the highs be too high. You need to be steady across the board if you're playing quarterback for the Gators.
Yeah, and they're starting off at number 7. And that puts a lot of pressure on this football team to come out and look like a top 10 football team early in the season. Now, last season, they knocked off some pretty good teams. They knocked off an LSU team that was a number 5 team in the country. They knocked off Michigan later in the season in a bowl game. And so when you're ranked in that top 10, a lot of people have their eyeballs on you. And this is the opening weekend. So this will tell a lot of what Florida's been doing since the bowl game till now. Do they deserve to be in the top 10?